The history of World Cup top scorers, 1930 to 2022. The World Cup is not just where national teams fight for the world title, but also a stage for great strikers to etch their names into history. Some need only a single World Cup to become legends, while others score consistently across multiple tournaments. There are also those who, despite their teams not winning the trophy, left individual performances that are remembered forever. When talking about the 2022 World Cup, many will instantly remember the young forward who took the world by storm, Kylian Mbappé, scoring 8 goals. But turning back the clock, 2018 belonged to Harry Kane, 2014 to James Rodríguez, and 2010 to Thomas Müller. What about the older World Cups? Today, we will look back at all the top scorers of every World Cup from 1930 to 2022. This is not just a recap of the Golden Boot winners, but a journey through history and different generations of football. Let's break it down into sections. Part 1. The first scoring kings of the World Cup. World Cup 1930. Guillermo Stábile, Argentina, 8 goals. The first World Cup in history was held in Uruguay in 1930. The top scorer of this inaugural tournament was Argentina's Guillermo Stábile, with 8 goals. Notably, Stábile did not even start the very first match. However, once given the opportunity, he exploded onto the scene to become the most fearsome striker of the tournament. Argentina reached the final that year, but lost to the hosts, Uruguay. Despite missing out on the trophy, Stábile became the first top scorer in World Cup history, kicking off the greatest scoring race in world football. World Cup 1934. Oldřich Nejedlý, Czechoslovakia. 5 goals at the 1934 World Cup in Italy. The top scorer was Czechoslovakia's Oldřich Nejedlý with 5 goals. Czechoslovakia had an incredibly impressive run to the final that year. However, they lost to the hosts, Italy, after extra time. Though he couldn't lift his team to the title, Nejedlý was the standout attacking star of the tournament. The 1934 World Cup highlighted a very familiar theme in history. The tournament's top scorer isn't always on the winning team. World Cup 1938, Leonidas, Brazil, 7 goals. The 1938 World Cup witnessed the emergence of one of Brazilian football's first true legends, Leonidas. He scored 7 goals to become the tournament's top scorer. Leonidas was famous for his technical style, masterful ball handling, and highly creative improvised finishes. While Brazil didn't win the title that year, Leonidas left a massive impact. He is considered one of the pioneers who laid the foundation for Brazil's beautiful, highly technical style of play, establishing a tradition of producing world-class forwards. World Cup 1950, Ademir, Brazil, 9 goals after a 12-year hiatus due to World War II. The World Cup returned in 1950 in Brazil. The host nation's star, Ademir, was the top scorer with 9 goals. Ademir was Brazil's ultimate attacking threat, scoring consistently to bring Brazil incredibly close to their first ever world title. However, the 1950 World Cup ended in one of the most painful tragedies in Brazilian football history. They lost to Uruguay in the decisive match at the Maracanã, an event infamously known as the Maracanazo. Thus, despite Ademir winning the scoring title, the 1950 World Cup remains a memory both brilliant and agonizing for Brazilians. Part 2. Unbreakable Scoring Records World Cup 1954. Sándor Kocsis, Hungary, 11 goals. The 1954 World Cup in Switzerland was a tournament filled with absolute goal rains, and the standout name was Hungary's Sándor Kocsis, with 11 goals. At the time, Hungary was dubbed the Magical Magyars, boasting an unstoppable attacking force. They scored at will and were the absolute favourites to win. Kocsis was their ultimate assassin, possessing exceptional positioning, heading, and finishing skills. But like many top scorers before him, Kocsis could not finish the tournament with a trophy. Hungary suffered a shocking defeat to West Germany in the final, a match widely regarded as one of the biggest upsets in football history. World Cup 1958. Just Fontaine, France, 13 goals. When discussing single tournament scoring records, the absolute number 1 is France's Just Fontaine. At the 1958 World Cup, Fontaine netted a staggering 13 goals in just one tournament. To this day, this remains the record for the most goals scored in a single World Cup. Interestingly, the 1958 World Cup is most famously remembered for the arrival of Pelé, who led Brazil to the title and became a global icon. But strictly within the scoring race, no one could touch just Fontaine. Scoring 13 goals in a single tournament is almost unimaginable today. Modern football might feature more matches, but reaching that milestone remains incredibly difficult. This stands as one of the greatest records in sporting history. Part 3. Special World Cups and Box Assassins World Cup 1962. 6 players tied, 4 goals each. The 1962 World Cup in Chile was a unique case. There wasn't a single outright top scorer. Instead, 6 players shared the top spot with 4 goals each. They were Florian Albert, Hungary; Valentin Ivanov, Soviet Union; Garrincha, Brazil; Vavá, Brazil; Dražan Jerković, Yugoslavia; Lionel Sanchez, Chile. This was a World Cup where Brazil retained their title, despite Pelé suffering an early injury. Garrincha stepped up as the ultimate inspiration, carrying Brazil to their second consecutive championship. Thus, 1962 was unique because the top scorer title was shared by an entire group, rather than belonging to just one man. World Cup 1966. Eusebio, Portugal. 9 goals. The 1966 World Cup in England was the ultimate stage for Eusebio, the legendary figure of Portuguese football. He scored 9 goals to claim the top scorer title. Eusebio was one of the most terrifying forwards in the world at the time, armed with pace, power, technique, and a lethal long-range shot. Portugal didn't win the tournament, but they reached the semi-finals and finished third. It was a remarkable achievement, and Eusebio was the soul of that journey, elevating his name into a global icon. World Cup 1970, Gerd Müller, West Germany. 10 goals. The 1970 World Cup in Mexico is widely regarded as one of the greatest in history. Pelé's Brazil claimed the title with dazzling attacking football, but the Golden Boot went to West Germany's Gerd Müller with 10 goals. Müller wasn't a flashy player. He didn't dribble past multiple defenders or show off complex skills, but inside the penalty box, he was a pure assassin. Give him a tiny pocket of space or a loose ball, and he would instantly punish the opposition. Though West Germany didn't win in 1970, Müller left a massive footprint, later going on to win the World Cup with West Germany in 1974. World Cup 1974. Grzegorz Lato, Poland. 7 goals hosted by West Germany. The 1974 World Cup saw Poland's Grzegorz Lato top the scoring charts with 7 goals. Poland was a massive sensation that year, playing high-speed, disciplined, and highly effective football. Lato was the standout attacking star. Thanks to his impressive form, Poland secured a third-place finish, a historic milestone for the country. While he might not be as universally mainstream as Pelé or Maradona, Lato is an unforgettable name when discussing the 1974 tournament. World Cup 1978. Mario Kempes, Argentina. 6 goals. The 1978 World Cup was incredibly special for Argentina as they won the title on home soil, led by their ultimate star, Mario Kempes. Kempes scored 6 goals to win the top scorer award, playing a monumental role in giving Argentina their first ever World Cup trophy. His peak performance came in the final against the Netherlands, where he scored crucial goals to secure victory in extra time. He is a prime example of a top scorer who was also the tournament hero who carried his country to glory. Part 4. From the official Golden Boot to Fairy Tales World Cup 1982. Paolo Rossi, Italy. 6 goals starting from the 1982 World Cup. The top scorer award was officially named the Golden Boot, or Golden Shoe. The inaugural winner was Italy's Paolo Rossi, with 6 goals. Rossi's story is purely cinematic. He started the tournament quietly, facing heavy skepticism. However, as the matches got tougher, he exploded into life. He scored a legendary hat-trick against Brazil, netted in the semi-final, and scored again in the final. Italy won the 1982 World Cup, and Paolo Rossi became a national hero, a textbook example of how a player can completely alter the destiny of a tournament through a few miraculous matches. World Cup 1986. Gary Lineker, England. 6 goals. The 1986 World Cup is best remembered for Diego Maradona and Argentina's triumph. However, in terms of individual goals, England's Gary Lineker led the pack with 6 goals. Lineker was an incredibly sharp poacher in the box. He wasn't flashy, but his positioning and clinical finishing were exceptional. England was eliminated by Argentina in the quarter-finals in that famous match featuring Maradona's hand of God and goal of the century. Despite the exit, Lineker finished as the top scorer. Thus, 1986 tells two parallel stories: Maradona as the icon of the championship, and Lineker as the master of the scoring charts. World Cup 1990. Salvatore Schillaci, Italy. 6 goals. The 1990 World Cup in Italy witnessed the sudden explosion of Salvatore "Totore" Schillaci. Before the tournament, he wasn't expected to be the main man, but once the matches kicked off, Schillaci scored consistently to become the host nation's primary hope. He bagged 6 goals to claim the Golden Boot. Italy fell short of the title, but Schillaci's highly emotional goal celebrations remain one of the most iconic images of Italia 90. It was the ultimate fairy tale of an underdog suddenly rising to become the tournament's biggest star. World Cup 1994. Oleg Salenko, Russia, and Hristo Stoichkov, Bulgaria. 6 goals each. The 1994 World Cup in the USA saw 2 players share the top spot with 6 goals: Russia's Oleg Salenko and Bulgaria's Hristo Stoichkov. Salenko is a highly unusual case. He scored 5 goals in a single match against Cameroon, setting a record for the most goals scored by an individual in a single World Cup match. What's even wilder is that Russia was eliminated in the group stage, yet Salenko still finished as co-top scorer. Meanwhile, Stoichkov was the heart and soul of Bulgaria, driving his team on a historic run to the semi-finals. One exploded violently in a single match, the other carried his team deep into the tournament. Both shared the 1994 Golden Boot. World Cup 1998. Davor Šuker, Croatia. 6 goals. The 1998 World Cup in France saw Croatia pull off a massive surprise, spearheaded by their #1 star, Davor Šuker. He scored 6 goals to claim the Golden Boot, leading Croatia to the semi-finals in their very first World Cup appearance as an independent nation. Gifted with an incredibly elegant left foot, intelligent finishing, and immense composure in big games, Šuker guided Croatia to a 3rd-place finish and became the symbol of Croatia's golden generation. Part 5. The Modern Era of Football World Cup 2002. Ronaldo Nazário, Brazil. 8 goals. The 2002 World Cup marked the legendary comeback of Ronaldo Nazário. After suffering severe knee injuries and the heartbreak of the 1998 final, Ronaldo entered the 2002 tournament shrouded in doubt. He answered his critics with 8 goals. The pinnacle was the final against Germany, where Ronaldo scored both goals in a 2-0 victory to secure Brazil's 5th world title. This wasn't just a golden boot. It was the ultimate redemption story of one of the greatest strikers in football history. To many fans, the 2002 version of Ronaldo remains one of the most terrifying forwards ever seen at a World Cup. World Cup 2006. Miroslav Klose, Germany. 5 goals playing on home soil. Miroslav Klose claimed the 2006 Golden Boot with 5 goals. Klose was the definition of an efficient striker, exceptionally dangerous in the air and always in the right place at the right time. Germany didn't win the tournament, but Klose secured the individual honor. A quick fact check. Just a quick heads up on the stats here. While Lionel Messi had an incredible tournament recently and broke records for appearances and Argentinian scoring, Miroslav Klose still holds the all-time record for the most goals in World Cup history, with 16 goals. Lionel Messi has scored 13 World Cup goals in total, so Klose's historic record remains unbroken. World Cup 2010. Thomas Müller, Germany. 5 goals. The 2010 World Cup in South Africa saw several players finish tied with 5 goals, but Thomas Müller claimed the Golden Boot thanks to tiebreakers, assists, and fewer minutes played. Müller was very young at the time, but played with immense maturity. While not a traditional centre-forward, his movement, spatial awareness, and clinical nature were extraordinary. The 2010 tournament unveiled a fearsome new generation of German talent that laid the groundwork for their 2014 triumph. For Müller, the 2010 Golden Boot was the launchpad for an incredible international career. World Cup 2014. James Rodríguez, Colombia. 6 goals. The 2014 World Cup in Brazil belonged to James Rodríguez. Colombia didn't win, only reaching the quarter-finals, but James scored 6 goals to win the Golden Boot. His most iconic moment was undoubtedly the magnificent chest and volley against Uruguay in the round of 16. That goal wasn't just beautiful. It catapulted James into becoming one of the most sought-after stars in global football. 2014 proved that one spectacular tournament can completely transform a player's status. James didn't win the trophy, but he provided some of the most beautiful memories of that World Cup. World Cup 2018, Harry Kane, England, 6 goals. The 2018 World Cup in Russia saw Harry Kane capture the Golden Boot with 6 goals. England reached the semi-finals that year, their best World Cup performance in decades. Kane was the spearhead of the attack, exceptionally lethal inside the box and from the penalty spot. Although some pointed out that many of his goals came from penalties, there is no denying he was the most efficient goalscorer of the 2018 tournament, marking a major milestone in his international career. World Cup 2022, Kylian Mbappé, France, 8 goals. The 2022 World Cup in Qatar concluded with Kylian Mbappé winning the Golden Boot with 8 goals. What made Mbappe's run truly legendary was his hat-trick in the final against Argentina. Even though France ultimately lost on penalties, Mbappé put on a near-flawless individual masterclass. At such a young age, Mbappé has already had 2 explosive World Cup campaigns, winning it in 2018 and taking the Golden Boot in 2022. If he maintains this trajectory, he is well on his way to chasing down the top spots in the tournament's all-time scoring charts. Conclusion. Looking back at World Cup history, the top scorer title is not just about numbers. It is about moments, breakthroughs, redemptions, and heartbreaks. Just Fontaine scored 13 goals but didn't win the trophy. Ronaldo Nazário scored 8 goals in 2002 to lift Brazil to the pinnacle of the world. James Rodríguez turned the 2014 World Cup into his personal stage. Harry Kane carried England to the semi-finals in 2018. And Mbappé delivered one of the most unforgettable individual performances in final history in 2022. So, out of all the World Cup top scorers in history, who do you think had the most impressive performance? Was it just Fontaine, with his unbreakable 13-goal record, Ronaldo Nazário, with his legendary 2002 redemption, James Rodríguez, with his explosive 2014 run, or Kylian Mbappé, with his spectacular hat-trick in the 2022 final? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss any exciting football content. Thank you for watching.